The neon lights of Orion's den flickered like dying stars. It was the most famous bar on the Velaran space station, where aliens of all kinds came to drink, laugh, and forget their battles. Music echoed through the air, loud, strange, full of metallic beats. The smell of smoke, spice, and alien brew mixed into something dizzying. In one corner of the bar sat a group of young aliens all wearing bright silver suits. They laughed too loud, talked too fast, and drank too much. Among them was Lyra, a violet-skinned girl with silver eyes and a sharp tongue. She was rich, spoiled, and drunk out of her mind. Her long hair shimmered like plasma fire under the bar's light. "Another round," she shouted, slamming her glass on the table. The human waiter standing nearby nodded quietly. His name was Evan. He looked young, maybe 25 in human years. His black uniform was clean but old, and his face was calm, too calm for the chaos around him. He walked carefully between alien tables, never meeting their eyes, always polite, always silent. Humans weren't respected here. They were servants, workers for the aliens who ruled the station. Most aliens saw them as weak, slow, and harmless. But still, Evan worked with quiet pride even when they mocked him. "Hey, human," one of Lyra's friends called. "Your hands are shaking." "Scared of us?" Evan smiled softly. "No, sir. Just cold," they laughed at him. Lyra smirked, sipping from her glass. The drink was strong, too strong. Her head spun, and the laughter from her table turned cruel. "You know," Lyra said, leaning forward, her voice full of mockery, "humans used to think they were important. Now look at them, serving drinks to the people who own the stars." Her friends laughed again, but Evan said nothing. He simply placed another tray on the table and bowed slightly. His calmness made her angrier for some reason. His silence felt like defiance. "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?" She sneered. Evan shook his head. "No, ma'am. I just prefer not to argue." That quiet reply hit her pride like a spark in dry fuel. She slammed her hand on the table, spilling her drink. "Don't act better than me, human," she shouted. "You think you're special because you can stand straight and talk polite?" He didn't answer. That made her even more furious. Her friends laughed again, cheering her on. "Show him who's boss, Lyra," one said. "Tear his little uniform apart." Drunk and foolish, Lyra stood up. The bar quieted a little as she walked toward Evan. He stood still, his hands at his sides. Her eyes gleamed with mischief and anger. "You think you can ignore me?" she hissed. "Let's see what you're hiding, human." Before anyone could stop her, Lyra grabbed Evan's shirt and ripped it open with a loud tear. The fabric fell apart easily, buttons flying across the floor. The laughter stopped. Everyone froze. Under the torn shirt, Evan's skin glowed faintly. Soft blue lines spread from his chest like fire beneath glass. In the center of his chest, a strange symbol burned faintly, pulsing with light. It wasn't a tattoo. It wasn't a wound. It was something alive. Lyra stumbled back, the color draining from her face. The glow brightened, shining through the smoky air. A low hum filled the room, like the deep vibration of a ship's engine. Every alien in the bar stared in shock. What is that?" one whispered. Evan didn't move. His eyes stayed calm, but there was something behind them now. Something old, something powerful. His voice was low, steady and cold. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. Lyra's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her heart raced as she stepped backward. The mark on his chest pulsed again, stronger this time, glowing brighter with each beat. The light painted the walls blue, reflecting in every terrified eye around the room. "That mark," another alien whispered. "It can't be." It was destroyed, humans. They were forbidden to have it. Lyra felt her knees weaken. She didn't know why, but something deep inside her screamed danger. She had seen something she was never supposed to see. Evan looked around the room. For a moment, it felt like time itself stopped. His calm gaze met hers, and she saw something she couldn't understand. Sadness, strength, and a warning. The bar's security alarm suddenly blared, breaking the silence. Guards rushed in with energy rifles, shouting orders. Evan raised his hands slowly, but the glow under his skin didn't fade. It was like the light was alive, breathing with him. "Don't move, human," one guard yelled. Evan looked at Lyra one last time and said softly, "Remember this moment." Then the guards grabbed him and pulled him away. The glow dimmed as he was taken through the door, leaving only silence and fear behind. Lyra stood frozen, her hands shaking. Her friends whispered in panic, "What was that?" What did you do? She couldn't answer. Her mind replayed the blue light, that strange symbol and the way he had looked at her, as if she had just opened a door she could never close. Outside, the station lights flickered again, darker this time. Somewhere deep inside the walls, machines began to hum, reacting to a signal no one could trace. And Lyra, for the first time in her life, felt something new: regret. But it was already too late. The silence inside Orion's den lasted long after the human was taken away. The laughter, the noise, the music, all gone. Only the hum of neon lights remained, flickering above the frightened crowd. Lyra sat back down slowly, her hands still trembling. The smell of burned fabric lingered in the air. Her friends whispered, their voices nervous and thin. "What did you do, Lyra?" Juan asked. I don't know," she whispered. She tried to remember that moment, the light, the symbol, the sound. It wasn't just a glow. It felt alive, like the air around her had changed. When she closed her eyes, she could still see it. The mark on his chest, moving like fire trapped under his skin. One of her friends leaned closer. "You saw it too, right?" "That wasn't normal, that was human tech or something." Lyra shook her head. No tech glows like that. It looked ancient." The bar manager, an old alien with gray scales, rushed over. His eyes were wide with fear. "You fools," he hissed. "Do you realize what you've done?" Lyra looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" He was just a waiter. The old alien slammed his hand on the table. "Not anymore! That mark, it's forbidden. The humans are not supposed to have it. If the patrols find out, this whole place will be shut down." Her heart thumped hard. "What mark? What was it?" The manager lowered his voice. "We don't speak of it. It belongs to the extinct ones, the humans who fought the First War. The mark means power. And death," Lyra frowned. "But the First War was thousands of years ago. Humans can't even build ships now." He leaned closer, his voice like a whisper of dust. "That's what they want us to believe." Then he turned away, shouting for the guards to clean the mess. Lyra sat frozen, the words echoing in her mind. The extinct ones. Power and death. That night she couldn't sleep. The bright lights of the station felt too sharp, and the shadows too deep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human's calm face and the glow beneath his skin. Why didn't he fight back? Why didn't he defend himself? Why did he just let it happen? Something about that calmness haunted her. Hours later, in her small apartment on the upper level of the station, Lyra sat in front of her hollow screen. Her hands hovered over the console. She hesitated, then whispered, "Search, human worker Evan, station record." The system blinked, loading data. For a moment, nothing appeared. Then, access denied, classified record, security locked, her eyes widened. Classified? For a waiter? She tried again, this time using her access from her father's diplomatic network. The screen flickered, and for 1 second before it vanished, a single line appeared. Subject HX9, genetic protocol active. Status hidden. Then the screen went black. Lyra's heart pounded. HX9, she had never heard of that before. The system beeped a warning. Unauthorized access detected. Report logged. She quickly shut down the console, fear rising in her chest. What had she just touched? The next morning, her communicator buzzed. Her boss again. "Lyra, stay away from that human. The patrols are asking questions. But why? What's going on?" she asked. "They said the human is being transferred off station." "Forget him. This is bigger than you." The call ended before she could respond. But Lyra couldn't forget. That night she walked through the market district. The crowds were loud, the air thick with smoke. She wore a hood to hide her face. Every step echoed in her ears. She didn't even know where she was going, until a soft voice spoke from the shadows. "You saw the light, didn't you?" She spun around. An old alien stood there, his eyes pale and tired. His metal arm clicked as he moved. "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Someone who remembers the truth. You shouldn't have touched that human girl, but now you can't go back." Lyra stared. "What truth? What was that mark?" He looked around before answering. That mark belonged to the Phoenix program. It was the humans' last hope when they were losing the war. They tried to create beings who could never be controlled, humans with power beyond any alien weapon. But the Council destroyed them all. At least that's what they claimed. Her heart skipped a beat. "You're saying..." He's one of them? The old man nodded slowly. Maybe the last. You saw it for yourself. The light doesn't lie. Lyra felt cold. The ground beneath her feet seemed to vanish. But why was he here? Serving drinks? Because the galaxy fears what humans can become, the man said softly. They keep them small, weak, obedient, but the mark means the old fire is still alive. He stepped closer. You ripped open more than a shirt, girl. You opened a wound the stars tried to heal for centuries. Before she could reply, a loud alarm echoed through the district. Patrol drones swept overhead, scanning the streets. The old man grabbed her wrist. They're coming for him, and maybe for you. If you want to live, stay quiet. But if you want answers... He slipped a small metal chip into her hand. Meet me outside the South Docks at dawn. Then he vanished into the crowd. Lyra stood frozen, the chip glowing faintly in her palm. Far away, in the deepest part of the station, Evan sat in a locked cell. His shirt was gone, his chest dimly glowing in the dark. A pair of alien guards whispered outside his door. Why does he have the mark? Who knows? Maybe the old war never ended. Evan opened his eyes slowly. The glow brightened for a moment. She saw, he whispered to himself. Now they'll come. He looked toward the ceiling as if listening to something far away. Then in the quiet darkness he smiled. The metal chip glowed softly in Lyra's palm. It was small, cold, no bigger than a coin, but it felt heavy, like it carried the weight of a secret that could burn worlds. She didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, staring at the lights of the space station drifting outside the glass. The stars looked so calm, yet she knew something was changing among them. At dawn, Lyra put on a dark cloak and left her apartment. The streets were quiet, only the hum of cleaning drones breaking the silence. She moved fast, keeping her head down. Cameras followed her, but she avoided their gaze. The South Docks were far below the city levels, dark, cold, and forgotten. Only smugglers and scavengers went there. When she reached the edge of the docks, the same old alien from last night was waiting. His robotic arm gleamed under the flickering lights. He smiled faintly when he saw her. I didn't think you'd come, he said. Lyra held up the chip. You said you had answers. I have some, he replied. But you won't like them. He tapped the chip with his metal finger. This holds the truth about the Phoenix program. The humans who were supposed to be extinct. You saw one of them with your own eyes. Lyra frowned. I don't understand. Why would they let someone like him work as a waiter? The old man chuckled softly. Because hiding in plain sight is the safest place of all. He motioned for her to follow. They walked down a narrow corridor that led to a small storage bay. The walls were lined with old crates and broken ships. He connected the chip to an old holoprojector. The air shimmered and an image appeared, a human soldier, his body glowing with the same blue light that Lyra had seen on Evan's chest. The file name blinked on the screen. Project Phoenix, Human Evolution Protocol HX9. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. HX9. That was the same code she saw in the system last night. The recording played. A human voice echoed through the room, calm and proud. Day 27 of Project Phoenix. The serum works. Subjects show enhanced healing, strength, and energy control. But the cost is high. Every activation burns their life away faster. Another voice, colder, interrupted. Terminate all subjects. The Council fears what they may become. The old soldier paused the recording. That was the end of it. Or so they said. Lyra shook her head. So Evan, he's HX9? He's one of these. Evolved humans? The old man nodded. Maybe the last one alive. He's been hiding for years, working small jobs, staying invisible. But when you ripped his shirt, you exposed him to everyone. Lyra's chest tightened. I didn't mean to. I know, the old man said quietly. But now every scanner in this station is searching for his energy signature. The Council wants him silenced before anyone else sees the truth. Lyra looked at the glowing image again. The human soldier in the hologram looked just like Evan. Calm, strong, and strangely peaceful. She felt guilt twist in her stomach. They're going to kill him, aren't they? They'll try, the old man said. But humans like him don't die easily. Suddenly, loud footsteps echoed through the corridor. The old man's eyes widened. We've been tracked. He quickly pulled the chip from the projector and handed it to Lyra. Take it. If they catch me, they'll destroy this. Hide it. What about you? She asked, panicking. He smiled faintly. Old soldiers like me don't hide. Go. Before she could reply, armed patrol drones burst through the doorway, their red lights flashing. The old man stepped forward, raising his robotic arm. "Run!" he shouted. Lyra turned and ran through the dark corridors. Energy blasts exploded behind her, lighting up the walls. She clutched the chip tightly, her heart pounding. She didn't stop until she reached the outer docks, where the cold vacuum shimmered beyond the force fields. She hid behind a cargo crate, gasping for breath. Her communicator buzzed suddenly. It was a blocked signal. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice spoke. Calm. Human. "You shouldn't have met him, Lyra." Her heart jumped. "Evan?" "Yes," he said softly. "The soldiers are dead because of you. The council knows I'm alive now." "I didn't mean to," she said quickly. "I was just curious," he finished. "You're not the first alien to be curious about humans. But curiosity has a cost." His voice wasn't angry, it was tired, sad. "They will come for you too now. The mark you saw, it's more than a symbol. It connects us, and it woke when you touched it." Lyra blinked in confusion. "What do you mean, connects us?" But before he could answer, his voice faded into static. The signal was cut. She looked down at the chip again. The small device was now glowing faintly, the same blue light she had seen before. She felt warmth in her hand, then pain, as if the chip had recognized her. A small line of blue light spread across her wrist like a scar made of energy. "No," she whispered. The air around her seemed to vibrate softly, like something unseen was waking up. Somewhere deep inside the space station, alarms began to ring. Lyra looked toward the main corridor, dozens of patrol drones flying her way. She turned and ran, clutching the chip tight against her chest. Behind her, the old storage bay exploded in flames. The old soldier was gone. Far away, in a hidden part of the station, Evan stood before a cracked mirror. The light on his chest glowed stronger than ever. "She saw too much," he murmured. "But maybe that's how it has to begin." He looked up, and for the first time, there was fire in his eyes, bright blue, fierce, and unbroken. The alarm still echoed across the space station as Lyra hid in the lower tunnels. The faint blue glow from the chip pulsed in her hand, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat. She was scared, cold, and completely alone. She leaned against the metal wall, breathing hard. The words of the old soldier still played in her mind. "You ripped open more than a shirt. You opened a wound the stars tried to heal for centuries." She didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear now. The human waiter she had mocked wasn't just a servant. He was something else, something powerful. Above her, heavy footsteps echoed. Patrols were searching every corridor. "Seal the exits," one shouted. "No one leaves the docks." Lyra gritted her teeth. "I have to find him," she whispered. She slipped through a vent and crawled into an old maintenance shaft. The air smelled of rust and oil. After what felt like hours, she reached an abandoned control room. Broken monitors and dust-covered consoles filled the space. She sat down and opened the chip again. A blue hologram flickered to life. It was the old soldier. But this time it was a recording. "If you are seeing this, then I am gone," his voice said. "Listen carefully. The truth you seek was buried long ago. The humans were not conquered. They were betrayed." Lyra's eyes widened as the hologram showed a great battle. Ships burning, planets falling. Millions of humans fighting with nothing but courage and fire. They called it the First Galactic War. The alien empires united to stop humanity's rise. But the humans, they refused to kneel. Even when outnumbered, they fought like storms. The council feared them, feared what they might become. The recording changed again. A human scientist appeared standing beside a glowing machine. "Project Phoenix," he said. "If humanity must fall, we will rise again. Our blood will carry the flame." The image faded, replaced by static. Lyra stared at the empty air, her heart racing. "Phoenix," she whispered. "That's what Evan is." Suddenly, a voice behind her spoke. "You finally understand." Lyra turned fast, and there he was. Evan. His clothes were torn, and there was a faint glow under his skin. His eyes, once calm, now looked fierce but sad. "Evan," she gasped. "They said you were captured." "I was," he said quietly. "But they can't hold me for long." He stepped closer. The faint light from his chest reflected in her silver eyes. "What are you?" she asked. "What is that mark?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "I'm human," he said simply. But not the kind you know. My ancestors were part of Project Phoenix, soldiers built to survive extinction. We were meant to be the guardians of our race. Lyra swallowed hard. But why hide? Why serve aliens? Evan smiled sadly. Because if the galaxy knew we were still alive, they'd finish what they started. The Council erased our history, banned our language, and forced humans into servitude. The few of us left hid among the stars, pretending to be ordinary. He looked down at his glowing chest. Until you exposed me. Lyra's voice trembled. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was stupid. He shook his head gently. You were drunk, not evil. And maybe this is fate, she frowned. Fate? Yes, Evan said. Because the truth has to rise again. Humanity can't stay silent forever. Lyra hesitated, then took a deep breath. The old soldier. He died helping me. He gave me that chip. I think he wanted me to help you. Evan's expression softened. Then maybe you can. He walked to a terminal and placed his hand on it. The machine came to life, reading his biosignal. Streams of code filled the screen. This is a map, he said. A map to the vault of Terra, the last human archive. It holds the memory of our people, our history, our power. The aliens destroyed our worlds, but they never found this place. Lyra stared at the glowing map. And you want to find it? Evan nodded. Yes, before they destroy it too. That vault may be the only proof that humans were once rulers of the stars. Before she could speak, the floor shook. A loud explosion boomed from above. The door burst open. Alien patrol soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. There he is. Target HX-9. Evan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They dashed through the back door as plasma shots lit up the room. Sparks flew everywhere. Evan led her through a maze of tunnels until they reached an old airlock. He hit the control panel. Get in. Lyra hesitated. Where are we going? Out, he said. Into the waste zone. They won't follow us there. As the airlock sealed shut, she looked at him again. Why are you helping me? I exposed you. He looked at her with a calm, almost tired smile. Because you saw me. And didn't run. That makes you different. The pod ejected from the station, spinning into open space. Through the window, Lyra watched the stars blur past. For the first time, she felt the vastness of the galaxy. Endless. Cold and full of secrets. Evan sat beside her, his chest still faintly glowing. Lyra, he said quietly. What you saw in that bar wasn't just power. It was history. The aliens call us slaves, but they forgot who built the first ships. Who discovered the jump gates, who taught them how to reach the stars. He turned to her, his voice deep and certain. Humans did. Lyra's heart pounded. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel proud of being alien. She felt small. And for the first time, she looked at a human not with pity, but with awe. The ship drifted into the dark void beyond the station. Behind them, alarms blared, calling for their capture. But out there, among the stars, the truth of humanity waited, burning like a hidden flame, ready to rise again. The small escape pod drifted silently through space, its engines dead to avoid detection. Outside, the endless darkness stretched forever, a cold ocean of stars. Inside, Lyra sat quietly, hugging her knees, her heart still racing. Across from her, Evan stared out the window. The faint blue glow from his chest pulsed softly in the dark. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. They'll hunt us forever now, won't they? Evan nodded slowly. Yes. Once the council marks you as a traitor, you're as good as dead. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. He turned to her, his voice calm. You were curious. Curiosity is what made humans great once. It's what made us dangerous. Lyra looked down at her trembling hands. Dangerous? You were serving drinks, Evan. You looked harmless. He smiled faintly. That's what they wanted you to think. The pod shuddered as it entered the shadow of a large asteroid field. Evan activated the manual thrusters, guiding the pod carefully through the rocks. He moved with steady focus, his glowing eyes reflecting on the glass. After a few tense minutes, he spoke again. There's a place out here at an old colony. The council says it was destroyed a century ago. They were wrong. Lyra frowned. You mean there are more humans like you? Evan nodded. Yes, hiding, surviving, waiting. The word waiting echoed in her head. Waiting for what? An hour later, the pod descended through the misty atmosphere of a small gray planet. Ruined towers covered the surface, silent and broken. But as they flew lower, lights flickered below, signs of life. They landed near a canyon filled with glowing crystals. The air smelled faintly of metal and dust. Lyra stepped out, amazed. Hidden beneath the rocks was a vast underground city, the human refuge. Thousands of humans lived there, rebuilding old machines, repairing ships, and training in silence. The hum of energy filled the tunnels. Lyra's voice trembled. I thought humans were weak. But this is incredible. Evan walked beside her. Weakness is what the galaxy wanted to see. Strength is what we kept hidden. As they walked through the city, humans stared at Lyra. Some whispered. Others turned away. She could feel their anger and their fear. A tall woman approached, wearing black armor with silver stripes. Her eyes were sharp, her face scarred. Evan, she said coldly, you brought an alien here? She's the reason we're exposed. Another man muttered. Lyra flinched, guilt filling her chest. Evan raised a hand. She didn't mean to. And she saved something we need. He took the chip from his pocket and placed it on a table. The woman's eyes widened. Is that? The Phoenix data, Evan said. The last key to the Vault of Terra. The humans murmured among themselves. Lyra stepped forward. I didn't know what it was. The armored woman cut her off. Ignorance doesn't excuse betrayal. Because of you, the council knows our location. Evan's voice hardened. Blame me if you want, Captain. But she saw the truth, and she didn't report me. That's more than most aliens would do. The woman stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. You always did have a death wish, Evan. She turned to Lyra. If you stay, you work. No special treatment. Lyra nodded quickly. I'll do whatever it takes. For the next few days, Lyra helped the humans repair old ships and carry supplies. They barely spoke to her, but she didn't complain. She watched them work, tired, hungry, but determined. Every face she saw told the same story. Survival. At night, she sat near the training area, watching young humans spar with glowing blades. Their movements were sharp, fast, full of focus. They didn't fight for pride, and they fought to live. Evan found her one evening, sitting alone near a broken ship. You don't belong here, he said softly. Lyra looked at him. Neither do you, he smiled faintly. True, but humans never belonged anywhere. We made our place. She hesitated, then asked, Evan, what do you want to do with the vault? Why risk your life for it? He looked up at the dim ceiling, his eyes glowing faintly. Because it holds who we were before we were slaves. The galaxy erased our history, burned our books, destroyed our monuments, but that vault holds our truth. Without it, humanity is just another broken species. Lyra nodded slowly. And if you find it? Then, he said quietly, the galaxy will remember who we are. There was a long silence. The sound of machines filled the air. Then Lyra whispered, You're not like any human I've met. Evan looked at her with a hint of warmth. And you're not like any alien I've met. You asked why we hide. Maybe it's because we're waiting for someone to see us again. Lyra smiled weakly, her eyes glistening. Suddenly alarms blared across the base. Red lights flashed and soldiers shouted. Council drones. They found us. Evan grabbed his weapon. They must have tracked the chip. The ground shook as explosions rocked the tunnels. Humans rushed to their stations, firing up old ships and activating shields. Lyra looked at him. What do we do now? He handed her a small blaster. We fight, and we run. As the ceiling cracked and smoke filled the air, Evan shouted to his people, Protect the vault coordinates. Humanity will rise again. Lyra followed him through the chaos, her heart pounding. The air burned with fire and light. Somewhere deep inside, she felt something new. Not fear, but purpose. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just running from trouble. She was fighting for something bigger. And as she followed the glowing light on Evan's chest through the smoke, she realized the truth. Humans weren't slaves. They were survivors. And survivors never stayed down forever. Smoke filled the underground tunnels as explosions shook the walls. Alarms screamed across the human base. Sparks rained down from the ceiling, lighting up faces full of fear and determination. Lyra ran beside Evan, her heart pounding like a drum. The air burned with dust and heat. Behind them, the tunnels collapsed, sealing paths one by one. Keep moving, Evan shouted, his glowing chest casting blue light through the smoke. Human soldiers hurried past them, carrying crates and weapons. Children cried in the corners while mothers tried to hide them behind metal doors. The hum of energy weapons echoed in the distance. The council's drones had arrived. Evan turned to Lyra. You need to get to the lower hangar. There's a transport ship waiting. What about you? She yelled over the noise. I'm staying, he said. Someone has to hold them back. Lyra grabbed his arm. You can't fight them alone. He smiled faintly. You'd be surprised how long a human can stand. Before she could argue, a massive explosion threw them both to the ground. A drone burst through the wall, tall, silver, and armed with plasma cannons. It scanned the room, its red eyes glowing. Target identified. HX-9, the drone said in a cold voice. Evan stood, his eyes glowing brighter than before. You want me? He said quietly. Come take me. He raised his hand and blue fire erupted from his palm. The blast hit the drone with incredible force, sending it crashing into the wall. The air vibrated with energy. Lyra stared speechless. She had seen power before, but not like this. It wasn't just strength. It was rage. It was human will. Go, Evan shouted. Get the civilians out. Lyra nodded and ran, guiding frightened humans toward the lower tunnels. Every step echoed with chaos. Screams, gunfire, the roar of collapsing metal. But amid the fear, something strange happened. The humans began to fight back. Mechanics, farmers, engineers, all picked up weapons. Old ships that hadn't flown in decades came alive again, engines screaming. The tunnels glowed with blue energy as the humans rallied together. Lyra helped an injured woman to her feet. This way, she shouted. The woman looked at her with wide eyes. You're alien. Yes, Lyra said, pulling her along. But I'm on your side now. They reached the hangar. Inside, humans loaded supplies onto a transport ship, a rusty but powerful craft marked with faded Earth symbols. Captain, one of the engineers yelled. Shields are failing. We can't hold much longer. Evan's voice came through the comms. Launch without me. Lyra grabbed the radio. Evan, no. You won't survive. There was silence for a second. Then his calm voice replied, If humanity is to rise again, someone has to light the flame. Tears stung her eyes. You're more than a flame, Evan, you're hope. He didn't answer. The connection went dead. Lyra turned toward the others. We're not leaving him. The crowd looked at her, uncertain, afraid. She climbed onto a crate, her voice shaking but strong. You've all hidden for years, she said. You've worked, suffered, survived. But hiding won't save you anymore. The galaxy thinks you're broken. Show them what humanity really is. The hangar fell silent. Then one by one heads began to rise. A mechanic shouted, For Earth! Another answered, For freedom! The humans roared together, their voices echoing through the tunnels like thunder. For humanity. Ships powered up, lights flashing bright. Fighters rolled out of the hangar, engines roaring. Lyra jumped into the nearest gunship, gripping the controls with trembling hands. She had never flown a human ship before, but she wasn't about to back down. The hangar doors opened. The black sky stretched before them, full of stars, fire, and war. Outside, Evan stood at the heart of the collapsing base. Drones surrounded him, their weapons glowing red. He was bleeding, but his eyes burned with blue light. You wanted extinction, he whispered. You'll get fire instead. He slammed his hand onto the floor. A wave of blue energy burst outward, tearing through metal and machines. Drones exploded in blinding flashes. The mark on his chest blazed brighter than ever, a burning phoenix spreading across his skin. From space, the explosion looked like a rising star. Lyra's ship shook as the shockwave passed. She looked out the window and gasped. The old base was gone, but in its place a blue flame burned across the canyon, lighting the planet's surface. The humans in their ships cheered and cried. He did it. Someone shouted, Evan's light, he's alive. But Lyra said nothing. She just watched the flame, her heart breaking and burning at the same time. Hours later, the surviving ships gathered in orbit. Their systems flickered, damaged but functional. A message appeared on every screen, an old transmission Evan had sent before the explosion. If you're hearing this, then the flame has passed to you. Humanity isn't gone and it's waiting. Remember who you are. Remember what we built. Rise. Lyra closed her eyes as the message ended. The humans around her stood in silence, the weight of those words filling the air. She whispered to herself, He didn't die. He became the fire. The stars outside shimmered brighter, almost as if they were listening. The human ships turned toward deep space, engines igniting one by one. They had no home, no planet, no leader. But they had something far stronger, a reason. And as their fleet disappeared into the dark, Lyra knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had just awakened a sleeping giant. The age of human silence was over. The rising flame had begun. The stars burned quietly in the dark. Endless, eternal, unaware of the storm that was coming. Days had passed since the explosion on the hidden human base. The galaxy thought it was over. The Council declared victory, saying the human threat was destroyed once and for all. But in the deep shadows between worlds, something was moving. A whisper, a fire, a heartbeat. Lyra stood inside the command deck of the ship Aurora's Echo, staring at the glowing blue symbol on the screen. It pulsed like a living thing, the same mark that had once burned on Evan's chest. She touched it gently. "You didn't die, did you?" she whispered. The ship hummed quietly around her. Outside the window, hundreds of human ships drifted together, survivors from across forgotten colonies. Old cargo freighters, scavenger crafts, mining rigs, patched together to form a single fleet. Humanity was alive again. Lyra turned as Captain Rhea, the scarred leader of the humans, entered the room. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed emotion. "The signal reached 5 systems last night. More are joining us every hour." They heard the message. Lyra smiled faintly. "Evan's words?" Rhea nodded. "Every corner of the outer rim, even some alien worlds are listening." For a moment they both stood in silence, watching the stars. The galaxy that had once crushed humanity now trembled, not from power, but from the truth spreading like wildfire. Then the comms officer shouted from across the deck. "Incoming transmission from the Council fleet." The screen flickered, revealing a tall alien with gray skin and golden eyes, High Chancellor Varn, leader of the Galactic Council. His voice was cold, sharp, and full of arrogance. "Humans, you should have stayed buried. Return to your prisons or be erased again." Rhea's face hardened. "We don't hide anymore." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "You built your empire on their bones. But now the bones are waking," the Chancellor laughed. "You think a few stolen ships and traitor aliens can defy the Council?" Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the glowing symbol again. "You fear us even now. That's why you keep sending threats instead of armies." The transmission cut off. The humans exchanged glances. The silence felt heavy, the calm before a storm. "Rhea," Lyra said softly, "they're coming." The captain nodded. "Then we'll meet them." Moments later, alarms rang through the fleet. Thousands of Council warships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding them like steel shadows. The void filled with light, weapons charging, engines roaring. Lyra took a deep breath. "This is it." Rhea gripped the controls. "For humanity." The fleet responded as one. "For humanity." And then the stars exploded. Blue and red beams crossed the void, tearing through metal and flame. Ships collided, broke apart, and burned like dying suns. The Aurora's Echo shook violently as plasma fire grazed its hull. Lyra manned the defense turrets, her fingers trembling but steady. "Left flank. Shields breaking!" Rhea's voice echoed through the comms. "All ships, hold formation." The Council's fleet was massive, but the humans fought with something machines couldn't replicate: rage, courage, and memory. They fought not to win, but to be remembered. As the battle raged, the blue mark on Lyra's wrist began to glow again, brighter than ever. She gasped, feeling warmth spreading through her veins. "What's happening to me?" she whispered. The air shimmered and a soft voice filled the cockpit, calm, familiar, human. "Lyra," her eyes widened. "Evan?" The voice smiled within her mind. "You carried the flame. Now it's your turn to light the sky." Her pulse quickened. The mark pulsed in rhythm with her heart. The ship's systems flickered while reacting to her. Every human vessel across the fleet began to glow faintly blue. Rhea looked around in awe. "What is this?" Lyra raised her hand and light burst from her fingertips, linking to every ship around them. "It's him," she said softly. "It's all of us." The blue light spread across the fleet, merging energy, sinking shields, amplifying power. The Council ships fired again, but the blast dissolved against the glowing barrier of human light. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw it. The Phoenix signal reborn. Fire, Rhea shouted. The fleet unleashed everything. The sky turned blue and white as the combined energy of thousands of human hearts poured into their weapons. The Council's ships shattered one by one, their own fire fading into darkness. When the battle ended, silence returned. Not the silence of defeat, but of awe. The alien fleet was gone. Only wreckage and drifting light remained. Lyra stood trembling, tears streaming down her face. He was right, she whispered. The flame doesn't die. Rhea placed a hand on her shoulder. No, it passes on. Outside, the human fleet turned slowly toward the nearest star. The mark on every ship glowed the same, blue and alive. Lyra opened the ship's broadcast system and spoke softly, her voice reaching every corner of space. This is Lyra of the Phoenix Fleet. Once we served. Once we bowed, no more. Humanity has risen, not in anger, but in truth. You feared us because we remembered who we are. You can destroy our bodies, but never our fire. Her words echoed through every channel, carried by the Phoenix signal. In distant worlds, hidden humans looked to the sky and wept. Alien leaders watched in silence, knowing something ancient had returned, something they could never again control. As the fleet sailed toward the glowing star, Lyra looked at the blue mark on her wrist. Goodbye, Evan, she whispered. You lit the sky, and far away, beyond the stars, a single voice answered faintly. No, Lyra, you did. The light of the Phoenix spread across the heavens, burning brighter and brighter until even the stars seemed to bow. Humanity had risen again, and the galaxy would never be the same.